Maybe you don't know.
This time to build. 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 This time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. I know many of us are stuck in the midst of winter and we're not thinking at all about the spring season, but the spring season in most places is just a few months away, and if you haven't started preparing, there's no time like the present. Our proven plan system is built so that no matter where you are on your journey, we've got you covered. And then we've got the next step already in place as well. To be perfectly honest, I don't think there's another climbing training company anywhere in the world that has anything close to this system. Pre-built, inexpensive plans based on the patterns we've seen of climbers at that level that are ready for you to jump into right now, all the way from beginner to expert. I don't think it exists. So check those out. You can find the links right there in your show notes in your pocket supercomputer. Spring's going to be here before you know it. All right, today on the podcast, we have not one, not two, but three guests, all three friends of mine. I was recently on a climbing trip with this crew, all from Boulder Climbing Community in Calgary. And I've been wanting to talk with my friend Josh Muller. He's the gym owner at Boulder, along with his wife Regan. I've wanted to talk to him about this topic for quite some time. So this was the perfect opportunity. I had a couple of people who would goad him into talking, and I had three different perspectives from different points on the journey of climbing and being a part of a climbing community. So I talked them into it. Actually, I don't know if I left them much choice or if Jordan left Nic and Josh much choice. Regardless, this is a great conversation. I appreciate these guys doing it. And before I say too much, let's get into it.
Maybe you don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's like, how do you become more than just these four walls and the walls within it, right? We've always wanted people to be able to identify with the community, be a part of the community.
This time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
That's cool. That's a really cool feeling. I'm going to have, before we even get rolling here, I'm going to have you all introduce yourselves just super briefly so people kind of know whose voices are attached to what names. So Josh, let's start with you.
The gym?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure. Hey, my name is Josh Muller. I'm the owner of Boulder Climbing Community in Calgary, Alberta.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Jordan Jasper, sometimes known as Jasper Jordan. And I am the manager of Boulder Climbing Community back in Calgary, Canada.
I'm Nic Nolet, and I'm owner of NNP Gallery, photography and videography company.
You got louder when you're on a mic. I like that.
Yeah? Woo! It's natural.
I like
It's
that.
Natural.
Nick's been all quiet all week, and put a mic in front of his face, he becomes a talker. So something, when you started off, you're the owner of Boulder Climbing Community. And that's something that struck me the very first time I saw your social media. I saw the logo. We've all been wearing Boulder Climbing Community shirts all week. One of my favorite hoodies is a Boulder Climbing Community hoodie. The word community in there is really interesting to me because it's not just Boulder Climbing Gym. Was that a conscious decision to call it that?
Yeah. Putting community in the name was absolutely intentional. We thought long and hard about the name, and I don't know, believe it or not, naming a company is actually kind of challenging. All names sound stupid. when they don't have any context attached to them. It's like, what does that mean? But we knew we wanted something that sort of indicated community or a collective or a group of people. And yeah, we ultimately landed on Boulder Climbing Community because that is what we wanted our business to be, our company, our gym, our friend group, our community. We wanted it to be a group of people that were bold, were psyched, and were a community.
Now, you've been in climbing for a long time. Mm-hmm. You started when you were 4 or 5, you know, and so 30 years-ish now. When I started climbing 27 years ago or whatever it was, gyms were small, little, dark places, and it definitely felt like you saw the same people in there all the time. It was this little, tight community. And now that gyms are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it seems harder to have that like tight-knit little group of people who everybody can kind of look to, not just in the gym, but also, you know, see outside of the gym, your friends in real life, if you will, instead of just in the gym. Did your need to have community come from those early gym days, or where was it kind of spawned?
I think it did. I think it came from those early days. You know, I grew up in a gym that was just so community focused. Everybody was like best friends. You know, my family. It was my family. And you know, as climbing grew and gyms got bigger, I just found that community element to become sort of diluted and harder to find, and it kind of just fell away and it became less important, you know? And, you know, over time, I kind of came to this realization that I just didn't have that community anymore. And as a result, I wasn't enjoying climbing as much. And it was a bit of a struggle to go to the gym and train and want to be there. And so that, when I had that realization, that was the driving force for me for going after opening a climbing gym. Because I thought maybe I could reestablish a community and try and build it up and have that feeling again in a modern environment. You know,
totally.
I don't think you need that dark, dank atmosphere
right.
to have community and have like that tight knit group. But that was a very important factor for me, for sure.
It's interesting that it kind of stems from a sort of selfish thing, because I've done this multiple times in my own climbing, where I'm like, I feel stale, or I feel like there's, you know, the community has been diluted or whatever, and I need to create my own little community to keep me going, to keep me psyched, to keep me excited to train, you know, and come into the gym more often and go outside and get after it or whatever. So I've very often created little groups of people as a result of my own sort of selfishness.
Totally. And, you know, there's different levels and different layers of community in the sport. You know, there's obviously your day-to-day community at the gym, where, you know, you've got your friends that you train with and, you know, maybe go for beer with afterwards. But then it goes as far as, you know, every time my wife and I travel to the US, we run into friends. And
just today you saw members.
Yeah. I saw a member from our gym today. Yeah. In
the
Red Rocks,
Canadian
Vegas.
border opened and you all just flocked here. What happened?
Yeah, you know, but even the community expands beyond that to, you know, like we'll run into friends like you guys, you Chris and Annalisa, you know, and countless other friends that we have down here in the States. And that's all part of our community. And obviously those people aren't climbing at our gym, but that community element exists. Mm-hmm. And it's what gets me excited to go on my next trip, or to go to the gym and train, or whatever. It's that prospect of seeing the people that I care about.
Yeah. And as climbing grows, more and more people get into it who aren't necessarily just hardcore climbers, like they're just coming into the gym to train for their outdoor projects or whatever. It becomes kind of a social meeting place for a lot of people, you know?
Totally.
And I'm sure that's happened at your gym, especially with the emphasis on community. When during the pandemic, when I did a talk with your community online over Zoom,
Yeah.
there was a pretty wide diversity of ages there, and people that seemed like they had been climbing a long time and were really in the gym mostly as a means to train for outdoors, and people who seemed like, I just go to the gym because I fucking love this place.
Yeah, yeah. And I always say that to people when they come to the gym. It's like, they're first trying climbing out. It's like, climbing's cool. It's really fun, but it's kind of a good way to trick yourself into working out.
Totally.
Because you don't have to go and pick up a bunch of heavy shit. You can you go there, you hang out with your friends, and you actually end up working out as a byproduct.
4 hours later, you can't move your body. And you're like, I did something.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And it's just this social environment where you meet people and you just are hanging out, and you happen to climb walls every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And we've even had members get engaged at our gym and meet each other and end up being married, and it's really cool. We're only 5 years old. It's there's a lot more community building yet to have. So.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that you're 5 years old, Jordan or Jasper, whichever of you I'm talking to right now. You kind of came in right near the beginning of the gym.
Yeah.
So you've been climbing about 5 years.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, I'd say 4 years.
What drew you into the gym to begin with? Like, why did you walk into the doors the first time?
Long story. So I climbed once, maybe.
Is there ever a short story with you, though?
No,
Let's be
fuck,
clear.
who am I kidding, dude? Yeah, anyone listening, buckle up. But yeah, so I climbed maybe once, twice before that. But it was more for I was working I was just working. A dude was like, dude, come climb with me. Cool. We climbed. And I vividly remember how shitty the community was there. It was kind of funny. It just stuck with me. And then I went to SAIT in Calgary. It's like a college there. And then Boulder was handing out 2-for-1 passes. So then I knew what I was kind of doing. I could kind of climb.
Were you guys giving out free White Claws with the passes, and that's why you bought one?
Okay. Yeah, that's what really got me in. That was how, I kind of skipped that part. But yeah, and then anyway, I ended up at the gym, and then it was like opening day there was just different. I couldn't figure out what it was yet, which is interesting, but it was different.
So you were there on opening day?
I should say opening day for myself,
Opening
I should say,
day
not for the
you.
gym, sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, and then what really drew me in, I was definitely that gym bro. I was the guy that lifted weights. So because I'm strong, I can get up a V2 because who cares about my feet? This is just a bunch of pull-ups. I was that guy. I was definitely that guy. But I started climbing more, and then ironically, I found out who Josh was, and then ironically he happened to be there when I got my first V2, and it was like I discovered gold. This dude was losing his shit. It was wild. And then again, I know who Josh is. I'm like, man, this guy could definitely do this without his hands. He'd probably do this just with his feet. But yeah, so and then Josh is freaking out, and then random people are giving me now what I know, the fist bump, dude, good job. And then yeah, something just stuck after that. And then yeah, it just kept coming back and back. And I remember just hoping I could recover quicker to spend more time there. At that point, it wasn't even about the climbing. It was just I need to be there. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Was there, let's go on a little tangent here. Was there a point where either you realized on your own, or did someone point out to you any of your gym broness, and how did we get rid of some of that? I know we're still working on other parts of it.
Shit. But great question. Fuck, I never thought about that. I think I definitely realized on my own, now that I'm thinking about it here.
I'm curious because I think it's a thing we all want to help people learn who are coming into the community. There's there's an ego that when you're coming into a new community, you want to display for everybody so you can be a part of it, and it turns you into this gym bro of sorts, and you don't understand the etiquette necessarily of spraying beta and all of that. And it's nice to have somebody direct you in the right direction if you're not the kind of person who looks around the community and realizes on your own, oh, these people don't act like that and I need to fall in line, so to speak. You know, that's the wrong term, but be more like this community is.
Yeah, I think there's so many factors to this. This is very unique to me. But one, right after I started climbing, so I was at Boulder, I should say, I was maybe 4 months in, and I went on a 2-month trip to Japan. So to anyone that's ever climbed to Japan, you know how like life changing and eye opening that is. That changed my whole idea of their community out there is like wild. Like it's to the point, if Boulder ended up in Japan, no one batted an eye because it would fit in perfectly.
Right.
So I saw that, I'm like, cool. So spending the time there kind of integrated it. But because I couldn't speak to 99% of that gym, a lot of it was self-reflecting and analyzing through movement. So I'd look at people and how like the beautiful dance that they would do on the wall. I'm like, okay, well, he's a good climber. He's the climb I'm flailing on. I'm trying to be a gym bro on. He isn't gym broing on. Oh, clearly I need to follow this path. I need to follow the path of not just blowing feet and doing pull-ups. So that led me there. And then, by the time I got home, a little bit of a better climber-ish just after that time.
Well, there's definitely a be a part of this body language versus assert myself body language.
Totally.
You know? That's really interesting that the language barrier would lead you into that be a part of this body language.
It was, that again, that's a story for another day. But and then by the time I got home, I don't know, I think something clicked. And then I guess the final key was my best friend, Mike. That was the partner I brought for the 2-for-1. And we saw a lot of people on the moon board. And we're like, cool, I guess the moon board's the way. Let's do it. And no exaggeration, his first pull, he's on that infamous white jug, right hips towards the wall, pulls up. I hear the loudest bang I've ever heard in my life. And he ruptured his Achilles tendon.
Oh, no.
And he hasn't climbed since. So I'm sitting there going, oh God, like that climbing partner, which in a weird way was distracting me from kind of like
being a member of the community.
Yeah. So I lost him. So then hanging out with Josh, hanging out with a bunch of people who like climb. I just kind of by osmosis picked that up. And
how soon was it that you were working in the gym?
So I applied. So that would have been the fall. And then I got back that spring. I went to Australia for school. So I tried to apply. But Josh was like, hey, man, we'd love you. But obviously you're in Australia for 4 months. So I'm not going to give you a job before you go. So then I guess right after that, I applied. Didn't have an opening at the time. But Josh was like, hey, dude, we're about to host nationals. And I need a guy that doesn't shut up to be on a microphone.
Well, perfect.
Easy. So technically that was day one. So I did nationals. Yeah, did that. So I get let's say 8 months. Let's just give it a number. Let's say 8 months after starting to climb, and I did that. And then position opened up. I fell into that one. And here we are.
Yeah.
3 years later, I guess.
Upward movement from there.
Yeah. Now I tell people what to do. It's awesome.
Nic, talk to me. You're the newest climber here. You started climbing right at the beginning of the pandemic. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
This I find really fascinating that you would have started climbing right before the gyms closed for quite some time. How do you end up from that to now you're here in Vegas on a climbing trip with these guys?
Well, yeah, I think no one could expect that would happen, obviously. But I got introduced by my cousin, like just before everything closed, basically. And just like my background of competitive sports, I just got hooked to that how would I say it? Like climbing in general you're always failing.
Yeah.
So that process of failing to get better, basically, I just got hooked to that.
I see it in your eyes. Like when you when
Yeah.
you find something that's either difficult for you or scary for you, you'll like back away from it, and then I can see it stewing a little bit, and you're like,
Yeah.
I have to walk back toward that. You know?
Yeah, I think climbing in general, you have to love that feeling, right? Because
Yeah.
99% of the time you're failing. But so yeah, I got hooked from that, and then we got shut down for, it was supposed to be a month, and at the time I was, trying to transitioning from jobs, so I was trying to pursue this passion for me that was photography. And it happened that they had a triple threat at the climbing gym, and I asked Jordan, I was like, man, I'm trying to get like my foot in the door of this photography business. Like, is there an opportunity for me to maybe shoot that first comp? And he talked to Josh, and Josh was like on board with it. So I did that, and it was pretty awesome. To be able to, capture those moments of people, obviously, like you said, like trying hard and, giving their 100%.
Efforting. That's the new word.
Efforting, yeah. Kind of me on this trip. Not sending, but efforting. But yeah, so after that, the gym didn't end up closing for a month. It was like, I think 3 months that go. Yeah, round one. So in that time, I met with Josh and Regan, and I was just willing to offer my services to them because the people that they are, how amazing they are. I was just like, I think that for me it was going to benefit me at the same time. I was going to be able to work on my craft, but also help them in the crossfire. So we did that, and the gym closed, and then we opened, I think, for 2-3 weeks, and then
again.
another 6 months. So
Yeah, and during that time that we were closed, Nic really stepped into a role where we kind of we needed to engage our community without allowing them access to the facility.
Yeah.
It's like, the climbing gym's tricky like that. When the business is closed, we're in the business of walls, and if you can't use our walls, where does that community go? How do we maintain that community and not lose it in the middle of a pandemic that seems to be endless?
Yeah.
And
it was really fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching how you all engaged with the community online.
Yeah, and we did all kinds of weird shit. Like we had our friends and members doing like cocktails, like
you had
live
like
cocktail
cook-offs
making,
and all
cook-offs,
sorts of things.
bake-offs.
Yeah.
We had all kinds of weird stuff. And we had Nic involved from day one on all that stuff, and a lot of the ideas even came from Nic. And it was cool. It was a good experience, and the more we did it, the more the community we would hear from the community, and they'd be like, "This is awesome. I love this." And I remember between the first and the second closure, approaching the second closure, we had one of our members even reach out and be like, we did Boulder of the Week. So obviously we, during the closures, we reset the whole gym, and people are itching to climb. So what we would do is we would take a video and a photo of a boulder problem that we set during that week. And we'd, put it out on the social media on Tuesday, and we'd be like, what's your beta? Think about it, climb it in your head, like come up with the solution that you think it is, even come up with a grade. And then Wednesday or Thursday, we would post somebody climbing it with maybe 1 or 2 different types of beta. And it would give people an opportunity to be like, oh, damn, I had it right. Or like, I was close, so I didn't see that heel hook beta, and that kind of thing. So it was like climbing in their minds. And we had one of our members reach out to us between the second and our first and second closure. And she said that she was like, that brought community together across the world. She's like, I was sending that to friends I have in Australia and in Asia and like all over the world, and being like, and we would all challenge each other to come up with the beta for these boulders. Yeah. And it was really cool. Like it was just like, yeah, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we were just trying, like, shooting in the dark, trying to figure out how do we get community during a pandemic. And I guess it worked. When
I first saw it happening, I was like, oh, this is a cool idea. And then there was another idea, and then another idea, and then another idea. And it just kept building. And I would see more and more of your community getting involved. There was the like boulder, which boulder's the best or something.
That was a good one. Yeah, the outdoor climbs of just, between staff and everyone, we just kind of organized let's call it a round robin and just voted on iconic climbs.
Yeah, and I was like going to check which one won.
Totally.
Like I wanted to know, you know. And one of the things I saw, and I don't know if this came directly out of the pandemic or if it was just sort of a continuation of that, were the like community member stickers that were happening.
Yeah, I think that was like, actually, the way it came about was one of our members posted on her Instagram one day, like missing boulder, or you're missing climbing when you start drawing the staff.
Yeah.
And so she had drawn, was it you, Jordan?
Yeah,
she had drawn
first,
Jordan, like a really cool drawing of Jordan, and it was like kind of almost like featureless drawings, like featureless faces and stuff. And we were like, oh my God, that's really cool. Like that's like super sick. And that would be a rad like sticker. So from there we were like, hey, we reached out to her. We're like, do you want to draw a sticker for all of our staff members?
Yeah.
And so, and she was super psyched on it. And so we did. Yeah. Now everybody has their own sticker. And obviously we sell them at the gym or whatever and give them away and stuff. But yeah, it's like, it's kind of fun,
Yeah, the community was stoked on it too. That's that's the part that speaks volumes of the gym. Of like, people are like, dude, when does the Josh sticker come? Or like, I got the Jordan already, but when's this and when's that? Like,
I was watching them come out, and I'm like, somebody bring those things to the U.S. for me. There's a few of those I want. You know? Get them for my collection. It's like baseball cards or something.
Totally.
You have to have them.
That's kind of what we'd hoped they would become, is like baseball cards, like collect all the staff,
Yeah.
And a few people have. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's so wild to see. Like, there's people like I don't even really know, but my sticker's like on their water bottle. I'm like, cool, man.
Yeah.
Part of the team.
Yeah, it's super neat. So something I want to talk about with Nic being here. Nic, you're on like outdoor trip number 2.
Number 1.
This is outdoor trip number 1.
Yeah.
Wow. For some reason, I thought it was 2. I think I asked this question earlier in the trip too, and I just glossed right over that. So outdoor trip number 1, Josh being a gym owner, a mentor in the community, and an architect of this community, where do you feel like your responsibility lies in getting those gym members who do want to go outside prepared for climbing outside?
That's a good question. I actually, I've been a climber my whole life, and I always talk about how climbing outdoors was originally kind of initiated through mentorship type thing. Like you'd have a really good friend who was an experienced climber, and they'd take you out, they'd show you how to how to belay or how to spot or whatever. They'd take you on your first climbing trip and teach you how that's done. And as the sport grows, it becomes harder and harder to have that same mentorship approach, and the people who should be mentoring are kind of tired of it, and as some of them are resentful towards the how much climbing has grown and like the indoor scene and whatever. But I think it's really important for those people, like us who have been around a long time, and for gyms to still carry themselves in a way and try and teach as best you can, even to the masses, because it is the masses now, how to be out, how to do the sport ethically, with good etiquette, and and just do it right. Do it the way that we've grown up climbing in, the way that we've always loved being outside. And obviously, it's like it's not realistic for me to take every single one of my members out rock climbing for their first time or anything. But I think experienced climbers kind of dwell on that. They're like, well, there's too many people, I can never do it, and so why bother? But the way I look at it is, it's like you've got to do your part, and whatever your part is, if it's 5 people or 500 people. And so I try and mentor and take people out and do what I can when I can. And one thing we always do is my wife and I coach a youth team, and every spring we take our youth team down to Joe's Valley for a week. And big part of that trip is obviously some climbing and team building and whatnot. But the biggest part for me and the most important part for me is teaching these kids how to become climbers long term. How do you exist in this world in like just a good way that you leave no trace, and you spot each other, you protect each other, you make the right decisions, you make risks when it's appropriate, things like that. And so, yeah, I try and do my part. I think it's really small, but that's as much as you can do, Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you just said it's not, Jordan, that his part isn't small. I know you two have relatively limited experience outside and climbing with other people, but not every V14 rock climber is as selfless as he is, and isn't going to take time out of their schedule, out of their day to teach other people. A lot do, but certainly not all of them. So definitely a good mentor to have in place.
Well, thanks.
It's funny. I feel like almost obligated. I'm trying to be like the dark Josh Muller of like, he's like too humble and too nice. Or like, I'm like, he's guiding us. Like he doesn't even know the impact he makes. So I'm like,
You're
okay,
the dark side.
I'm absorbing everything he does, like whether it's spotting technique or etiquette. And then because I'm the loud motherfucker, I'm going to make sure that's spread more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part of it is having the right people around you. I know I'm not capable of throwing my voice. Right. Well, I got to have the loud dude with me.
Jasper over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw his voice.
Jordan listens, Jasper talks. Yeah.
Well, and I think the beautiful thing, like, it would be really easy for people to listen to this and be like, oh, I don't like the guy who's always yelling in the gym. But there's a difference between yelling in the gym and yelling with the biggest grin on your face that you've ever seen, and you're a yell with a grin kind of a person.
That means a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
And I think that draws people into what it is you're saying instead of just wanting to like deflect it.
Well, and it's funny, kind of like to break off a tangent a little bit, but like a lot of people will kind of reserve themselves and don't want to be that guy. So in a weird place, like mentally, I'm like, fuck it, I'm the guy, because I'm hoping that being that guy is going to do what Josh did. And Josh might have signaled like just focused on me when I got my first V2. But if I'm louder to more people, that community grows. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
So kind of tangent, being the loud guy with intention, I'm hoping works.
Did Jordan seem like the loud guy with intention when you first started coming into the gym, Nic?
I just have to say definitely. Without a doubt. If there's one person, it's him. But that's why we love him,
Yeah, you need those people for sure. Question kind of following up on the stickers. Like I said, we're all wearing Boulder shirts and Boulder socks, and when I was doing my interview with Eric Jerome and Max Solotukin about what makes a quality boulder, I was wearing the Boulder hoodie, and Max was immediately like, what hoodie is that? That's the climbing gym in Canada, right? And I recognize that brand.
That's cool.
And I think the merch that you guys put out, that you are, it's more than just a t-shirt, right? Yeah. It's more than just putting your logo on something.
Yeah.
You're building this brand that the people around you, the community around you want to wear. They want to support.
Totally.
What's the thought process behind all of that? Because I think so many gyms miss out on we're going to build this bigger brand more than just be a company of walls in a building.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's it. It's like, how do you become more than just these four walls and the walls within it, right? And you know, we've always wanted people to be able to identify with the community, be a part of the community. And I think one of the ways to do that is to create merchandise or branded clothing that has sort of like almost like a badge of honor to it. You know, it's like I'm walking around with this shirt on because I'm proud to be a part of this group, a part of this community. And I want you to ask me about it. I want you to ask me what this means. And you know, so we've always tried to create not just like a t-shirt with a Boulder logo. Like, cool, you know, we did do that, and you know, there's a place for that.
Sure.
For sure. Some people just want straight up simple, and that's awesome. Yep. But you know, we've tried to be a little more groundbreaking when it comes to the clothing, and try and be a little more cutting edge and fashionable as well. Because it's like, you know, it's the thing that climbing is always kind of like, it's like a dorky skateboarding.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as cool as skateboarding, you know, but some people are close to it. You know, some people are trying to be cool like skateboarders. Yeah. You know, and so we decided that, you know, we wanted to be a little cooler, and like, so that people are confident wearing our clothes as well as like, you know, identifying with the clothes. So we've tried to come up with, you know, fashionable clothing that I think is like also conveys the experience, the community, and what we're all about, you know? So you kind of like, and you know, we've recently produced a couple t-shirts that have hand-drawn pictures on the back, which was drawn by one of our staff members and one of our route setters. And it's got 4 images, and we really thought long and hard about what images, you know, if we were to pick 4 images from our community, from our gym, that convey the experience and the community here. And we picked them out, you know, and it's a plant. Our gym is basically a greenhouse. Like we've got plants everywhere. My wife loves plants, and she's just it's awesome. And it's something people really love about our space. It just like feels like fresh and clean.
We've sold those plants.
Yeah. People are like legit trying to buy our plants. It's crazy. So we've got the plants. You know, we picked out a climbing hold. It's a little bit more cliche because obviously we're a climbing gym. Hold. We have our logo, and then we have our dog. My wife's my dog, Jade, and you know, and that's another, you know, thing that's like really does honestly draw a lot of community. People love that dog, and they identify with that dog, and it's not the first piece of apparel we've actually put our dog on.
Dude, it sells out every time.
I think it's like the second or third time we've done it, and people absolutely love it every time. They're super into it.
It's the first thing I saw about the shirt.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's Jade.
The real owner of the gym.
Yeah, right? The real boss, yeah. And then the other two, actually, I forgot about the other two images we picked was coffee and beer. So we serve coffee and we serve beer as well. And the reasoning behind that isn't really about getting drunk or having, you know, getting all like amped up on coffee before climbing. It's about the experience.
Right. These are things people meet over and
talk
exactly.
over. You know, it's like how many people out there go for a climb and they go for a beer after with their friends. And we were like, well, that's awesome. Like, let's foster that. Let's grow that. Let's keep them in the same building. So why not have your beer sitting here harassing your friend who's still climbing? You know, like that's the way to do it. And
people were asking for it too.
Yeah, totally. You know, and I think it's a really cool. And I know a lot of European gyms serve alcohol, and it's pretty common over there, but it's really not in Canada, and I think in the US too. It's not very common to have alcohol at the gyms. And you know, we obviously can't climb after drinking or whatever, but it's just nice to be able to like sit down. You're chilling. You're just watching your friends climb. You're hanging out. You kind of you're still in the atmosphere, and you know, it just enhances the overall experience.
It's such an important part of community in general is, you know, the times around why you are all together in the first place. You know, like you all meet at work, but you're really not a community unless you're outside of work doing things. Yeah. You know, you can meet at a sporting event, that you're all a part of a team, but you're not a community unless you're doing things outside of that.
Yeah.
And you're giving them a way to do things outside of that, but also in the same building, you know, and with these groups of people. You know, so a note about the merch, something Dan Chancellor from So Ill said to me once that's really stuck with me, and I think you guys also do really well, is he said, people want to support you, keep giving them ways to do that.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
You know? And whether you think it's outrageous or not, they want to support you, and they'll keep doing that, and they'll be proud to do it because they want people to ask, like, oh, what's your shirt about? You know? And they want to tell them about it.
Dude, I tried fitting into, I bet you don't even know this story. This was right when I started climbing, before I worked there. Merch was like limited at the time. Maybe just like I missed the window. Our shit sells out like quick for this exact reason. The community wants to rep that. But we had an extra small tee. And I'm deaf, or not even tee, tank top.
There were other options. And you just
No,
bought
I
the
swear
extra
to
small.
God. I swear to God. Yeah, extra small tank top. And I don't even know if it was men's, to be honest. It was definitely like a ladies cut, which is even tougher. And I was like, fuck it. I bought that thing, and I did try to fit in it solely so someone could see the Boulder logo on it.
Yeah.
By the way, did not fit in it. If you're looking for a tank top, I will sell it to you. Yeah, because fuck.
And, you know, a good example of the community just wanting to support you is through COVID. COVID really brought out the gold in a lot of people, like the beauty in a lot of people. And, you know, when we first got shut down,
And it could have been it was a really scary time for gym owners. It could have been a catastrophic time.
100%. And it was touch and go for us the whole way. And, you know, when we first shut down, it just, there was no sight, you know, end in sight, and it was terrifying. And I made it kind of, I sent an email to our members and just was like, hey, you know, like, this is the situation. If you're able to help, you know, we'd really like to be here at the other end for you guys. And it was profound how many people stepped up to help us. It was really, really incredible. How many people kept their memberships alive through these closures, and all these people were struggling just as much as everybody. Like, the whole world was struggling,
right?
You know, and I'll forever grateful for those people, for sure.
Him being humble is, we heard of another place somewhere in Canada where their numbers dropped single digits to membership,
terrifying.
which is fucking terrifying. And I bet we only lost single digit numbers through those. Like, everyone was like, no hesitation, I'll keep that membership. Didn't even blink an eye. They're like, why are you even asking? What do you mean? That wasn't an option. Like,
it was really cool. And you know, and then also, you know, through COVID, it was like, okay, how do we recreate our business and still have something to offer? Because, you know, again, we sell the walls within this building. And so merchandise was another one of those things that was like, okay, you know what?
Well, it makes you feel good as well. You know, you're creating a thing you can give to people for their support.
Totally.
You know, as there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for support.
Yeah.
But it certainly is easier to ask for support when you can say, I have this to give you in return.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
It feels a lot better when it doesn't feel like as much of charity. That's for sure.
I mean, even on that note, like, when we live in the province of Alberta, to anyone asking, but the way our COVID regulations worked, at one point, everything had to be booked through essentially a private coach. But a way we gave back was like, essentially just for our members, hey, free private coaching on us. Because all of our staff were like, dude, well, no questions asked. Like,
right.
I haven't seen person A, person B in forever. Let's hang out. Grab your mask. 2 hours on us. I don't care. Like, that's
cool.
Let's climb. Yeah. Way to give back.
You've been in climbing forever, Josh. Nic, you're coming in brand new from a background of competitive sports. How does this community walking into a climbing gym compare to what you saw in other competitive sports? What was the community like there versus here?
That's a tough question because I've done many different sports, but my main sport was hockey. And hockey is very similar in terms of the community because like there's a lot of players on a team. I think we're like 20 or 22 players. And there's a lot of events. There's a lot of, volunteering work that we do, team building work that we do, and obviously a lot of tournaments. So those are all opportunities where, you're bonding with your teammates, and the parents do the same, right? So I think it's very similar in that sense, and that's why I also got hooked to it. It's not just for the failing, obviously, but it's also the people that are in the gym and the staff. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would be, going to the gym 5-6 days a week, right? You're going there because those people are going to be there. And they're going to be there because, you have similar values, but also because they're going to support you. So I think that it is similar in a sense, but also a little different.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about climbing is that it kind of provides this team sport atmosphere, sort of.
Yeah.
And can do it for adults who don't have the like time and commitment to put toward a team sport necessarily. And there really aren't that many team sports available for adults. Yeah. Not at the level there is when you're a youth competitor and a teen competitor of any sport. You know,
I think that's true because like obviously people climb at different grades, and I don't think it really matters. Like if you're a beginner, V1 is it's a high grade for you. You're performing at your limit.
Absolutely.
But it's like it's an individual sport, but it, like you said, it does feel like it's a team effort in a sense, especially if you go at the gym at the same time and it's the same people working and the same people climbing. Kind of like Jordan said, people are there to support you. You can ask questions about, I don't know how to do this problem, and they'll help you as best as they can, and same for the people that are there usually, right? So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it, that I see so many of like the people I went to high school with who were the athletes in high school who they don't have an athletic outlet anymore that has a good community attached to it. Totally. They can occasionally, someone will find like a pickup basketball game they can go to every week or whatever, or a softball league or something like that. But it's really difficult to find as an adult.
Totally. And it becomes like a team sport is by nature competitive. Like you're competing against the other team. Somebody wins at the end of the day. And that can be an intimidating kind of thing to approach as an adult, because you're like,
for sure.
Like I'm not in super great shape. Like I work way too much. I probably should eat healthier. You're like, shit, I don't want to compete against those people. Like I'm just gonna get my ass kicked. And that's where like that individual sport comes in, and it's so valuable because it's like, well, I'm climbing and I'm in this team atmosphere, but that guy's climbing V10, I'm climbing V1, and it doesn't matter. Like we're both just here, we're both having fun. I'm getting the workout I want to get in, and that guy's getting the workout he wants to get in.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're both chasing our own challenges. Yeah. And they don't have to line up on the scale exactly in the same place.
Yeah. And we kind of really looked at that hard when we first opened Boulder is how do you draw people into the sport? The sport is pretty intimidating. If you walk into a climbing gym, loud music, a bunch of people falling off walls, like swinging around, like, holy crap, that's an intimidating atmosphere. And so that was something we really, really focused on, is like, how do you break down those intimidation barriers, those walls that just scare people away, and make it more welcoming, make it more approachable, and just make people want to come back,
Yeah. You put Jordan out front with a big sign.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, straight up
on the street.
There's the big chicken suit and dancing around.
Honestly, we should. On the side note, fuck, that would work. But no, I was actually just gonna like kind of comment on that in the sense of like, you can clearly see that was put into thought,
Yeah.
when you did open boulder. Because speaking from the like another place I climbed, it was like this weird like hierarchy of, all right, Chris Hampton comes in and we know he's one of the better ones. Okay, let him do his shit first.
Damn right.
Even if even if Nick just like Nick was next in line, quote unquote, that like weird line that we all do while we're waiting for a boulder. But that intimidation factor, that's like a cool one that really got me. The lack of, I should say, a boulder is what got me to stay there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that can happen really quickly in a gym. If it's, how do you keep it in check, Josh? Or do you see it happening in the gym at all? Like starting to form?
You know, I do not see it starting to form at the moment yet. Cool. It's something I constantly think about and I constantly have my finger on the pulse with. I think some ways that we do keep it in line is, you know, we support some of the stronger climbers in the community, as well as we coach like a really high performance youth team who, you know, end up being some of the strongest climbers in the gym.
Sure.
And through those two groups, I make it adamantly clear from day one with those guys, and I reiterate frequently that they are ambassadors to the sport and to this facility, and they need to be welcoming and open to every single person that comes through the door. And you need to be like encouraging to every group of person, like every type of person you come through that door, and just make them feel at home. Because at the end of the day, you love this sport. So why wouldn't you be a great ambassador for it? And
so you and Regan are both modeling that yourselves. You know,
yeah, we
you're
try
both
to at least.
Successful Canadian climbers. You know, anybody who's paid attention to Canadian climbing is going to know both of your names, but you're both modeling that behavior.
Yeah, and that's really important. And yeah, like you said, not only do we have our ambassadors, like our high level climbers and our youth team trying to model it, my wife and I also try and model that as well as, you know, as often as possible. You know, I think it's really the only way, and I think it'll be an interesting process. You know, as we grow, you know, inevitably our business will grow, and be interesting to try and keep these core values as we expand. It's extremely important to me, and the reason why I do it. So I'm gonna have to find a way. But,
to kind of piggyback on that, like just as the guy that's on the floor, which is like kind of a different side, I guess. And the way Boulder's laid out, if anyone's ever been there, when you go there, there's nowhere to hide. It is such an open space.
Yeah, it's important.
So between me checking you in or making you a coffee or giving you a beer and you sending your project, there is like anywhere between 5 and like 30 feet between, like there's nowhere to hide. Yeah. But those crushers that come in where this weird development can kind of happen, it's really cool because our gym is so community based. They're also the people that are going to bring the new people in. And when the second they bring their friend in that's never done this before, you can see everyone just gets brought back down to that same level of, okay, we're all in this together. That same, Nick's made the comment, Josh has made the comment of, I don't give a fuck if you climb V10 or V1.
Right.
We're right there together. So I know Josh, just because as an owner, it's a different side of you, but as the guy that's constantly on the floor, I couldn't imagine our community ever flipping, ever. It's constantly going to be just this weird baseline. I shouldn't say weird, this awesome baseline of, like we're all sucking, but we really enjoy sucking on this boulder together. You know what I mean? Like we're flailing together.
And you know, I think that reminds me of also an extremely important part of what has created our community and held it so strong is we won the staff lottery. We have like the best staff members in the world that work for us, and like they're just every single one of them are amazing in their own way, and like it makes a huge difference. It really does.
I don't think it's an accident. Like it starts somewhere and it trickles from there, and you can see that happen in some gyms where it's either bad, shitty ownership, staff who just doesn't care, something that trickles down into the community, there becomes this weird hierarchy in the gym of like the bros who rove around giving beta, you know.
Shout out.
And it's not an accident that you're modeling it, Regan's modeling it, your staff then models it, your team kids model it, you know, the ambassadors of your gym model it, and therefore you don't have to worry about these roving bros at the gym.
Yeah, because like it's really, you know, we're not actively out there shutting down the bros. you know, it just, yeah, I think that it just, the atmosphere kind of has created itself, and it just, it's now its own, you know, this own like live, you know, live body that's just moving through. And yeah, it's really
A good
cool.
analogy to this is exactly this trip. We currently have Josh projecting the nest. Mm-hmm. We'll call myself a gym bro because I'll be the victim. Screw it. And then we have Nic on his first climbing trip.
Yeah.
And we are currently sitting in the same room together, and no one has batted an eye.
Well, and I think, you know, I see trips like this as a real opportunity for me. And I'm curious how you feel about this, Josh. I'm old as dirt at this point, and it's really fun for me to climb with young climbers who are super psyched and who are still learning a ton. It reminds me how fun learning is, you know? Yeah. And you traveled across the border with a couple 20-something-year-old yahoos.
Handsome 20-something-year-olds.
So I'm sure that there's some aspect of that for you. Is that right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I you know,
because you're not getting any younger either.
no, yeah, totally. It's not getting any easier. It's
His
not getting
elbows
any
disagree.
younger.
Yeah.
Yeah, whole body hurts. I totally. I think it's amazing. It's super fun to just, you know, it's the same as our Joe's Valley trip we take with our kids every year. It's just such a fun opportunity to go out there and almost like seeing it through the eyes that we saw it through however many years ago, you know, when I was a kid or when I first started climbing. You know, it's like you get to see all this stuff again and experience all these, you know, things I don't really experience anymore because I'm kind of a bit of a veteran in the sport, you know. And you know, great example is today Jordan getting a little scared on bubble butt.
Scared, hey?
Yeah,
a little scared.
Generous, yeah, got pretty scared on bubble butt. You
that
know,
top out.
It's a bit of a scary top out, and it's just like it's really cool to see that again. And you know, you and I probably don't think about that much anymore. You know,
Right.
We're up high like that. We have our heads and our wits about us, and we just execute. And it's pretty straightforward, but it's cool to take a step back and see it through somebody else's eyes and work through the process with those people.
I am so torn if
really
this is a
fun.
compliment or not. I have no idea.
We'll make sure to drive the point home after the podcast is over. No, I agree. And I think it's been this really fun trip of like, you know, watching Nic learn all sorts of new things about climbing and feeling this is one thing I'm really happy about is that you're okay asking questions.
Yeah.
Like very often a relatively new person in a group won't feel comfortable asking questions of the more experienced people. And that's on the more experienced people. You know, it's up to them to make it a welcoming place to ask questions. So you asking a bunch of questions, Jordan has asked a bunch of questions. We've all talked a lot about learning climbing and what it's all about. And, you know, we've been philosophizing about climbing this whole trip. And for me, that's half of the fun of it is, you know, getting to watch this process in action.
Yeah.
So I have to imagine that was just a part of it.
For
you.
sure. Yeah, for sure. I love that part of it.
Before we wrap this up, I want to jump back to what Jordan brought up about the layout of the gym. Mm-hmm. I've traveled to a lot of gyms around the country doing workshops, emceeing events, and the trend has become bigger and bigger and bigger gyms. And maybe that's subsiding a little bit, and, you know, Boulder only gyms are opening more and more. But I've been in a few bouldering only gyms that are massive and just have all these nooks and crannies where people can hide. And it's really tough to know how many people are in the gym. It's tough to actually meet somebody and talk to people and build a community in those environments. My friend Sydney at Momentum in Houston is one of the best at building community in a gym like that I've ever seen. It's an almost impossible task.
Shut up.
And she crushes it, but it's very hard to do. Was it a conscious decision to build the gym in such a way where
Good question.
everybody can see everybody?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we wanted you to be able to see most of the gym. Obviously, the entire gym is impossible, but
One blind spot, it kills me.
Yeah, there's one small blind spot in the gym, and we thought long and hard about that blind spot. To be honest, whether it was acceptable or not in our eyes, because you can't. In my eyes, if you have the staff and you have like your the front desk separated from the facility, the experience is now separated, and so the person who's working the front desk and the staff members working, they're curating the experience. They are, they're the DJs of the night. They're in charge of how you experience this atmosphere and this community. And if you're in a different room, then you're in a different mood. You're in a different atmosphere.
Right.
You're doing something different. You're like melancholy, hanging out over there alone, and that vibe translates to the facility, and now everybody's kind of like blah, Whereas if you're in the atmosphere, you're a part of it. You're behind the desk, kind of like dancing to the beats because you can't not, because it's such a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the energy is just spewing out of everybody. Everyone's just having fun.
You're like mad that you can't climb.
Yeah,
Does that make
exactly.
sense?
That is what
Like, dude,
you
you're
want.
just sitting there. You're like, fuck this. Like, I just want to climb. Like,
That is what you want. That's how you have such a great experience. And I always have this. Whenever we have a staff meeting, I always get on my soapbox and I tell everybody, I'm like, working at a climbing gym might seem like a small thing, like an insignificant part of the greater world, but it's not. We save lives every day. People come into the gym, they're depressed, they've had a shitty day, or you don't know what's happened to them. You don't know what their week's been like. Maybe they lost their grandma yesterday. Everybody comes in there in a different mood, in a different place in their life, and they come into that facility, and the atmosphere is amazing. It's lively, it's exciting, music's going. It removes you from the stresses of your everyday life and puts you into a happy place. Even if you didn't know that was your happy place, that is now your happy place, and you're just experiencing this higher thing. And through that, that's how we save lives. Because otherwise, those people would go home, they'd sit on their couch, they'd drink a beer, and they'd just wallow in their daily stress, and it would just get worse and worse and worse, And so it's so important to remind ourselves of that every day we go into work.
Yeah, I mean, even if the staff members don't have the direct impact over someone like that, the staff members are directly impacting the other people in the gym, and they're modeling the same behavior that the staff is, that the owners are.
Yeah.
And, the whole community is affecting this one person who might have walked in with, having the worst day of their life.
Totally. Yeah. And it's just so important to remember that what we do is actually important. It's not we're not just working in a climbing gym.
Boulder hit the reverse of like, when you go outside and everyone's always like, oh, that breath of fresh air. There's this weird sensation when you leave Boulder, and it's like literally the reverse. You almost regret leaving. You're like, fuck. Like, let me go back in. Breath of fresh air is the other way. It's inside this chalky, loud music, sweaty place. You know what I mean?
You can hear Boulder from a block away. We got bass bumping in that thing.
I'm taking 50% of the credit on that too.
Yeah, you can hear it from
that playlist. Woo.
You can hear it from a block away, and I think music's a funny one. We sometimes get a 4-star Google review, and people will be like, oh, the only downside is I thought the music was a little too intense. And, I'm like, okay, everyone's entitled to their opinions. But deep down, I'm like, I don't think you realize how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah.
You don't know that it's making your experience as good as it is.
I've been in a gym where the staff played all sad emo music.
Yeah, dude.
And it's horrible.
It's a dark place.
It's so hard to deal with. It's hard to like keep yourself psyched. It's hard to keep your partner psyched. It affects everyone's pace in the gym. You know,
dude, climbing to Adele is a tough thing to do. A tough thing to do.
Totally.
And I'm not mad at Adele.
Yeah, let me tell you. Yeah, I miss her too, man. I miss her too.
It's just not for climbing too.
Yeah. So I just think like people don't know that that's what's creating the environment and the experience, and sometimes you have to force it down the throat a little bit and, loud, kind of intense music. And, but yeah, I think it overall creates this experience that, like you get out of your car, you can just hear the thumping music.
Yeah.
And you're just like, all right, sweet. You walk through the doors. We intentionally created a bit of like a dimmer lit, narrow hallway kind of entrance with like a, lower ceiling kind of feel to it that sort of kind of gives you a little bit of like an intro into the space, and then you come into the space and it opens wide and it's big and bright and clean, and there's climbers everywhere and loud music, and
it's like
a friendly staff member, saying hi to you and
yelling hi at you.
yeah, yelling hi.
I was gonna say,
The biggest
dude,
grin
I just
you've
want to
ever
clarify. He
seen.
did point at me when you were saying that. I was gonna say it's like the reverse of like a gladiator. Like you're going in not to die, but to like finally live.
Yeah.
Might be a little too deep for that podcast, but you know what I mean? Like that's exactly how it feels. Like you can hear the rumble outside. You're like, okay, you open the door. Oh, shit's getting intense. You take off your shoes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that feeling of like excitement it's probably not unique to our gym, and I'm not delirious in that sense.
Sure.
It's the climbing in general, and it's like the atmosphere and the community, and just getting like excited about going to do what you love to do. I just
But I do appreciate that it's a curated thing.
Yeah, we've just tried to be thoughtful about it.
You thought about you thought about the feeling people would have walking in, instead of just, I'm going to walk into this room that's a pro shop where they're trying to sell me a bunch of stuff before I can get to the climbing.
Totally.
Yeah.
You walk past like 5 sale racks before you get to the front desk, and,
Right.
and whatever, No, it's always been really important to us to have, a thoughtful experience.
Yeah.
I always say this from the beginning is like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. But I truly feel if you put thought and consideration into things, and it seems like people can people can see that you're putting thought and consideration into it. Whether you're doing the right thing or not, I think people are gonna see that, acknowledge that, and be like thankful for that. So I think, I try and carry that through my life in general, not just Boulder, is just to be like trying to be as thoughtful and considerate of the experiences around me. And I think that's all we can ever do, right?
Yeah, I think climbing is, it's a business for a lot of us here.
Yeah.
It's a sport for some people. It's a lifestyle for some people. It's a lifesaver for some people. Yeah. And for all of us, it's this experience that's bigger than just a sport you play. I think that's just the truth for the vast amount of people who are climbing. And that makes it even more important that the space where you're doing it is this curated space that is designed to be an experience of some sort, with a community that's welcoming, who's going to hold you close, and that that's what it's going to be for you. And I hope that becomes a bigger trend in gyms personally, as opposed to the big Walmartification of climbing gyms. So thanks for doing it. Thanks for
shout out
sitting down and talking about it, all three of you. I appreciate it. And we've got one more day before Nick leaves, an afternoon before
Yeah,
Nick leaves.
like
and
18
then-
hours at this point.
And then we've got the rest of the day with you guys and another morning. So I'm looking forward to that.
Woo.
So thanks, all of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
First off, this was a fantastic trip, and getting to both learn from and teach at the same time and to soak up the stoke that these guys bring, that means a lot to me. Thanks, all three of you. I spend a lot of time considering how to more effectively build community. It's my business, essentially. And so I really value getting to have conversations with folks who do the same and who are quite good at it and have put just as much, if not more, thought into it as I have. If you find yourself in Calgary, go visit Boulder Climbing Community. You will not be sorry. And if you're already there, consider yourself lucky. Also, quick plug here, Boulder is carrying my recent book, The Hard Truth, and I believe I signed all of those copies, so go get them. They also have our process journals designed to help you ask the right questions and get more out of your sessions. And even if you don't make it to Canada, go follow Boulder on the Instagrams. You'll learn some things about turning a business into a community. I promise you. All right, you can find the links to all of Boulder's socials as well as all three of these guys in the show notes, in your pocket supercomputers. Go follow them, check out what they're doing. You can find us at powercompanyclimbing.com. And as always, on the Instagrams, the Facebooks, the Pinterest, the YouTubes, the who the hell knows what all social medias we are on at this point. But I know for a fact you will not find us on the Twitter machine because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
Maybe don't know.
This time, 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 power, this time to build power, this time to build power, this time to build power. 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 This time to build. 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 This time. Cause job is the sinister character.